Greetings, everybody. It is I, the Nomad, coming to you once again from the wastelands of the internet. How is everybody doing today? Yes, I'm starting a bit late today. I've had a number of different things going on, so I couldn't get there at the right time, my normal time for the day's events. But I'm here now. I'm here now. Um, doesn't look like anybody's here, but I'm just gonna go ahead and let's start the show. We'll start off with the U.S. kills 34 Iran-backed militants in a taste of what's to come. Pictures show the aftermath of Biden's revenge strike that saw B-1 bombers drop 125. It should have been 1,000 bombs. 125 missiles on 85 targets in Syria and Iraq in just 30 minutes. Ooh. Folks, a B-52 can drop 80 500-pound bombs, all right, in one drop. 80. Okay? So two B-52s, we'll do a little math here, can drop 160 500-pound bombs if they do it at the same time in about 2 minutes. Boy, I bet these people are shaking in their shoes. Pictures have emerged in the aftermath of the Biden's revenge strike that saw the U.S. bombers carry out attacks on 85 targets inside Iraq and Syria. Iraq headquarters of the militia Hash al-Shabi, also known as the People's Mobilization Committee, can be seen in ruins following the attacks. Other images show buildings turned into rubble after 125 bombs were dropped within 30 minutes on Friday in revenge for the deaths of 3 U.S. soldiers. Officials in Syria and Iraq claim that the strikes from B-1 bombers killed at least 34 people. President Biden and U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin have both suggested that this targeted retaliation was just the beginning as eyes now turn to Tehran over the potential retaliation. Okay. Hey, Maddie. Welcome, Maddie. Welcome, Sean. By the way, Maddie, you're welcome to come on in. If you want to come on in, please feel free. All right. You are more than welcome. All right, to come on over. All right, just hop into my Discord and stream, and you can be on there with me. I just wanted to let you know. All right. Look, folks. This and Sean, if you wanted to rejoin, you're welcome to as well. These strikes, and while I don't have a problem with the strikes in and of themselves, how what are they really going to accomplish? Okay, seriously, what are they really going to accomplish? We needed to do something. I agree. All right, but you need to come in there and just start laying wasteland to these people until they understand that this kind of nonsense isn't acceptable. And they're not going to do it by trying to play the pinpoint game here and the pinpoint game there and so on and so forth. We have been doing that now for close to 100 years. And have they changed? Have these people in the Middle East changed their mentality? And what I mean by that is change the mentality of their governments to put a stop to this. Or are they continuing to feed this government, these government officials, right? Continuing to breed these people and choose them as leaders, put them over themselves, and then go on the attack and just kill innocent civilians, all right, at random, all right, in order to spread terror because that's an effective means of attacking their minds. That's an effective methodology of dealing with foreign policy in their minds. They consider them to be martyrs. I know. I understand that, Sean. I really do. Right? They're going to try and play game after game after game, and it's not going to change it. Here, you don't believe it's not going to change? Okay, after what's been going on, Hamas demands Israel release Marwan Barghouti, a man some Palestinians see as their Nelson Mandela. He's viewed by some Palestinians as their Nelson Mandela. He's a prime candidate to become their president in the future. He is also the highest profile prisoner held by Israel. Now, Marwan Barghouti's freedom is at stake in the ceasefire negotiations between Hamas and Israel. Hamas demanded Friday that Israel release Barghouti, all right, a leader of the militant group's main political rival, all right, as part of any deal in fighting in Gaza. The demand brings new attention to Barghouti, all right, who plays a central role in Pakistani politics even after spending more than 2 decades behind bars. His release could lay the groundwork for his eventual election to national office. Okay, here's the question. All right. Why is he. Serious question. Right? What did he do that put him in jail? Was he calling for peace with Israel? Was he calling for calm? Or did he scream, Allahu Akbar, death to Israel, Allahu Akbar, death to the United States? And they're holding him in prison. The main political rival. You mean main militia rival. The guy's a militia guy. Militant. Oh, they're just militant. They're just angry. They're just like the people going out there and protest. They're militant protesters. These guys are bad guys. Exclusive. Iran guards pull officers from Syria after Israeli strikes. Iran's Revolutionary Guards have scaled back deployment of their senior officers in Syria due to a spate of deadly Israeli attacks and will rely more on Shiite militia to preserve their sway, 5 sources familiar with the matter said. The guards have suffered one of their most bruising spells in Syria since arriving a decade ago to aid President Bashir al-Assad in the Syrian civil war. All right. Since December, Israeli strikes have killed more than half a dozen of their members, among them one of the Guard's top intelligence generals. That just recently happened. As hardliners in Tehran demand retaliation, Iran's decision to pull out senior officers is driven partly by its aversion to being sucked directly into a conflict bubbling in the Middle East, 3 sources told Reuters. While these sources said Iran had no intention of quitting Syria, a key part of Tehran's sphere of influence, the rethink underscores how the consequences of the war ignited by the Pakistani militant group Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel are unfolding in the region. Really? Oh, it's the religion. It's a religion of peace. No, man. It's a religion of peace. Peace! I tell you, peace! They're not a religion of peace. They're not a people of peace. They don't want peace. And when I'm saying they, I'm not referring just to the leaders. I'm referring to the population in general. Because to them, okay, they will have peace when everyone is like them. And if you're not like them, there is no peace. You will be exterminated. It's a simple rule. That's how they think. Folks, I'm going to tell a story. Religion of peace. I'm going to tell a story. This is a true story. We were talking to some of the groups in that region when I was there in the desert. And one of the guys asked, you know, his Arab host about several different things. And the Arab host responded with, all this bad, and America does this, America does that, and, do this, do that, and that all these things are justified, right? And so finally, one of the Americans stood up there and looked back at the guy and said, "Hey, how about we just do what you do? We don't care about your civilians. We just bomb you out of existence. We got B-52s. We just exterminate whole swaths of villages. We just execute you all in the streets and everything else." And he'd be like, "That's horrible. That's horrible. How could you do that?" It's like, that's how you want to treat us. You see, what people don't understand, with people like Aiden Paladin, like these people on Twitter, what they don't understand, okay, is this isn't an issue, okay, of just people wanting peace. They don't want peace the way you and I understand the term, okay? They don't want peace that way. They're not a group of peaceful people. They don't think like you and I do. You got to understand that. Now, part of the reason that they don't think like you and I do is they weren't raised the same way. And what I mean by that is their lifestyle has nothing in common with yours. Everyone wants to run around going, "Well, we got so much in common." Yeah, we do. But we also have a lot of things that separate us, and it's those separations that they insist upon. Okay, and that's the other problem. We keep trying to insist upon our commonality, they keep insisting upon their differentials. They're a cult of pedos. I'm not even going to get involved in that. I'm not disagreeing with you, Sean. There are things that a lot of people fail to get, fail to grasp about what you're doing over there, who we're fighting, what we're fighting. This is a culture war, folks. You could kill every single Hamas leader today. You just let's say you had some kind of miraculous superpower, and and all the Hamas leaders just disappear off the face of the earth. Within a year, you'll be back in the exact same situation. You won't have peace. You won't have it. We wiped out the quote unquote group Al Qaeda. Another one showed up. We wipe out that group. Another one's going to show up. You wipe out that one. Another one's going to show up. You can keep wiping out the quote unquote leaders of these groups, all right, until you start to realize you got to deal with the situation as it exists. All right. Hi, Nimble Horse. Welcome. Zelensky from the Washington Post. Zelensky to oust Ukraine's top general amid tensions over mobilization. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told his top commander, General Valery Zaluzun, Zalunzi, I trying to butcher the dang name, I just can't pronounce it. All right, that he was firing him in a meeting on Monday, according to senior official familiar with the conversation. A disruptive military shakeup amid Ukraine's struggles on the battlefield and after months of friction between the president and the popular general. Zaluni remains in his post for now, but a formal presidential decree is expected to confirm his ousting nearly 2 years into the Russian invasion, and as Moscow's forces appear to be gaining a strategic initiative in some parts of the front. On Monday, Zelensky's spokesman, Zerlai Nikolov, I'm not trying to butcher that name either, right, denied that he had been fired. There is no subject of conversation, he told reporters. There is no order. The president did not dismiss the commander in chief. Okay, so you watch one sound and three more pop up. Well, that's because it's the problem is these people think that this is how they they live. They want to live. All right, but back to this thing. This is bad news, folks. What this is saying here is that the Ukrainians are starting to become desperate. Okay, there was always going to be a problem. All right, I want people to understand this. There was always going to be a problem of fighting Russia if Russia turns this into a meat grinder between Russia and the Ukraine. Why? Because Russia's population is so much larger. So when it comes to casualties, if the Russian people are willing to put up with them, okay, if the Russian government is willing to continue this, there is no way to defeat them unless you are defeating them completely. Unless you're able to actually mount an offensive that completely moves them out of the country. Half the fun is listening to me try to pronounce names. Thanks, Manny. All right. Uh, the the thing is can the Ukrainians defeat the Russians? Not without massive intervention. Okay, and I say that okay because I see no real cracks in Russia. All right, to prevent this from happening. Now, I want to point some things out. Okay, Russia is a closed societal dictatorship to a large extent. Okay, and I can hear it now. Well, no, man. So what? What does it have to do with anything? Well, what it has to do with is things can change in that kind of a system very rapidly. Something that you expect to be slow in coming can change very rapidly. All right. For example, a little thing, everyone keeps pointing to all these little things to show that Russia is having problems with this group or that group is against the war. And there was a protest with this woman holding a placard, wives against the war, all right, where their soldiers are dying and their husbands and their sons are dying. And Russia has jailed this protester, all right, and reporter of the protester. Okay, the problem with all these things in this type of environment is, from our assessment, is understanding how broad and how deep and how dangerous these kind of movements are. Why? Because these brutal dictators treat every minor little threat as if it's the end of the world for them, because any of them could turn into that. So things could turn dramatically. And I'm trying to point out that my assessments could be quite radically wrong, all right, if they decide to take out Putin. But I honestly don't believe that my assessments are wrong in this case for a very simple reason. This war, as much as we want to make it about Putin, isn't about Putin. There's a lot of people in Russia, a lot of people, a lot more than people want understand, that are in full support of this meat grinder war that's going on there, and are willing to sacrifice in Russia for it because they see it as essential to their way of life. They see victory in this case as essential over the Ukrainians, as essential to their way of life. It isn't just Putin saying, "Well, I want to go into here." It's not. a Hitler-esque type of, Lebensräume. We're going to go attack them because we want to take their land away from them. It's not that. That's not the situation here. That's not how they see it. Let's get on to a different story. I can butcher some more names for you. Beijing. All right. China's Coast Guard vessels began last month to issue warnings for Japanese self-defense or SDF planes to leave airspace over and around the Japan-controlled, China-claimed Senkaku Islands in the East China Sea. Sources familiar with the matter said on Saturday. The warnings via radio communications are based on Peking's claim that the SDF aircraft could violate Chinese territorial airspace around the islands called Dayo in China and have been made several and have been made several times. Oh, I guess the radio broadcast since January. Sources said they said Tokyo has refuted the claim and told Peking. I'm just going to call it Peking. Beijing just doesn't sound right. I'm sorry. I'm old school. Sources with familiar with the matter. Oh, I love that phrase. It is a loaded phrase, isn't it? All right. Um, Tokyo has refuted the claim, told Peking through diplomatic channels that such warnings are totally unacceptable, all right, without publicly announcing the move in an apparent effort not to damage bilateral relations further. The development came after Chinese President Xi Jinping, Winnie, what's it call him, Winnie? All right, Pooh Bear, Pooh Bear. All right, I called for bolstering Peking's sovereignty claim over the islands. All right, during a rare visit in November to the command office for the East China Sea area of the China Coast Guard in Shanghai. In the past, Chinese military vessels have urged Japanese maritime self-defense force aircraft to leave the airspace around the Senkakus. Like Japanese government officials said, it marks the first time for the Chinese Coast Guard ships that regularly sail around the islands to issue such warnings to SDF planes in Japanese territorial airspace. The Senkakus. Okay, there are a number of points here. Okay, it'll be interesting to see how all of this goes. The U.S. economy added 353,000 jobs in January, much better than expected. Job growth posted a surprisingly strong increase in January, demonstrating again that the U.S. labor market is solid and poised to support broader economic growth. Non-farm payrolls expanded by 353,000 for the month, much better than the Dow Jones estimate of 185,000 the Labor Department's Bureau of Labor Statistics reported Friday. The unemployment rate held at 3.7% against an estimate of 3.8%. Wage growth also showed strength as average hourly earnings increased 0.6%, double the monthly estimate. On a year to over year basis, wages jumped 4.5%, well above the 4.1% forecast. Um, really? Whose wages? Because I haven't seen it. Nobody in my company has seen it. My families haven't seen it. Right? My family members haven't seen it. Where's this wage growth? Maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe you guys can point out that you guys are getting some freaking 5% pay raises, close to 5% pay raises. I'm lucky if I get a 2% pay raise, folks. A merely 2% pay raise is something that is very difficult to see here. Oh, the costs of everything have gone skyrocketed, and inflation is out of control. 3 years ago, my monthly food budget was about $150. My monthly food budget today, all right, is easily over $300 a month. Easily. And I'm not taking restaurant visits. I'm not going out to all these different places to get this kind of stuff. Really not. China is protesting interrogations and deportations of its students at the U.S. border. What are your students doing at the U.S. border, jackass? Just trying to point this out. The Chinese government has protested the United States over the treatment of Chinese arriving to study in America, saying some of them have been interrogated for hours, had their electronic devices checked, and in some cases were forcibly deported from the country. Really? Xi Feng, the Chinese ambassador in Washington, said dozens of Chinese holding valid visas have been denied entry over the past few months when returning to school from overseas travel or visiting relatives in China, according to a post on the Chinese embassy website. They landed at the airport. What awaited them was an 8-hour-long interrogation by officers who prohibited them from contacting their parents, made groundless accusations against them, and even forcibly repatriated them and banned their entry. This is absolutely unacceptable. Oh, please cry me a river. If you went down to Mexico and had them come across the border, okay, there'd be good things waiting for you. Here, let me show you. Let me get to that. Outrage as Massachusetts Democratic governor closes cherished sports center in a majority black Boston suburb for 4 months so it can be used to house migrants. A deprived Boston community has been left on fire after the governor of Massachusetts requisitioned a vital rec center to house a surge of migrants arriving in the city. Democrat Mara Healy was accused of treating the Roxbury neighborhood like garbage after she locked residents out of the Melnia A. Cass recreational complex with less than 48 hours of notice. She insisted it was needed to house new arrivals, dozens of whom have been sleeping rough in the city's airport for months. The residents in the majority black neighborhood demanded she explain why their cherished facilities had been chosen to take the hit. You're not really you're really putting us in a bad situation, said resident Rodney Singleton. All right. It's not fair. It's not fair. Maddie, you said that you loathe. The word is loathe the phrase. All right. Sources familiar with the matter? You know a phrase I loathe? It's not fair. Okay? Because fair is in the eye of the beholder. Why isn't it fair that you voted for this and you're getting what you voted for? Isn't that fair? But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen. The Rolling Stone is on the case. Yes, the Rolling Stone has figured it out. Rolling Stone magazine, all right, Mr. Andrew Perez, Tim Dickinson, and Tessa Stewart have got it all figured out. Amazon, Chevron, and Wells Fargo are fueling a constitutional crisis. All right, amid Texas's refusal to grant federal agents access to a 2.5-mile stretch on the southern border, the Republican Governors Association has backed this Lone Star rebellion against the Biden administration. And the vast majority of the committee's corporate donors, including some of the most recognizable brands in America, are standing silently by. Oh no! Say it isn't so. So these corporations, they're not going after the people Republicans. You're supposed to cancel them. Yes, Rolling Stone has outed them. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Amazon, Chevron, the evil oil company that Rolling Stone has attacked on several occasions, and Wells Fargo. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, they're the cause. They're the cause. If only you didn't support them, there wouldn't be an issue. The migrants could be flown across the border left and right. Really? You see, these people do a story like that, and nobody calls them on it. Nobody sits there and goes, "Are you stupid?" Well, they give support to their campaigns. Yeah. I wonder why. I wonder why big corporations give people money. It's okay when Amazon and Jeff Bezos gives it to the Democrats, but not when they give it to the Republicans, right? Wells Fargo, Chevron. In fact, they give more to the Democrats than they do to the Republicans. But we're not going to be honest about that. Chevron, they're still around. On to the next story. Hateful squatters sabotage New York City home with rotting fish and nails in sofa, says the landlord. A pair of hateful squatters who lived in a Queens home rent free for nearly 4 years finally left, but not before trashing the unit and filling it with dangerous and disgusting booby traps. They left raw meat in a trash bag and an unplugged fridge full of uncooked salmon, leaving the place reeking of rotting food, landlord Vanny Mangal said. The rogue renters also bashed in the kitchen sink and ripped out circuit breakers in the electric box and a new thermostat from the wall, she claimed. But the coup de grace was a nail allegedly inserted into a ratty couch cushion that could have seriously injured Mango 33 or anyone who tried to sit on the sofa in the two-story home on 115th Street in South Ozone Park. It comes down to them just being hateful, the frustrated owner said of the alleged deadbeat tenants Rosanna Buskith and Philip Garnett, who left on January 17th, a day before the city marshal was set to boot them. In addition to being out at least $48,000 in unpaid rent per court papers, Mangal, who works as an emergency room physician assistant, estimated the repairs will take months and cost thousands. It's bittersweet. They're out, but this is also not the end, she said. Mango's housing horror story began October 2019 when her 72-year-old mother, Ahuti Mango, rented the first floor unit to Buskith and Garnett for $1,600 a month. When COVID struck in March of 2020 and pandemic era protections, including the federal eviction moratorium, kicked in, the couple paid just $800, then nothing after, according to court records. Mango took them to Queens Housing Court that December. Mango said she took on a second job working at a COVID clinic to make up for the lost rent. I was literally supporting myself. I was helping my mom and I was supporting this freeloading family, she said. This isn't the first housing headache caused by the couple. In June of 2019, another Queens landlord attempted to evict the pair from the South Richmond Hill home and collect 5 months of rent totaling $4,500, court records show. Despite the city's housing crisis, Mango's year-long legal saga to kick out the miscreants has killed any desire to rent her property again. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you have a couple. Now, as far as the stinking and rotting fish and the damage and everything to the house, I mean, it's ridiculous. When COVID hit, if people remember, go back to the Wayback Machine. Go back to your Wayback Machine. There was an individual who made the claim if you really wanted to do something to help people because of that were suffering due to the COVID restrictions. And I'm not going to deny that the COVID restrictions didn't hurt people because they did. But my comment was very simple. My comment was if you want to do something, you don't declare a moratorium on rent. You don't declare all this other crap. What you do is you sit up there and declare, all right, to all the banks that all of their loans are considered interest free, all right, and can't be collected upon during that time frame. That would have changed things. That would have helped the majority of Americans. That would have helped all the businesses and all the business sectors except the banking sector, which was the one sector best positioned to take the hit, to survive the hit. Instead, they went this route and actually gave the freaking banks not only a jail get on a free card, it gave them even more revenue. How about that? Simply amazing, wasn't it? That the one group of people who could have survived this whole COVID pandemic thing easier than everybody else is the one sector that made out like, quote unquote, bandits. Well, everyone else suffered. Why are we in this situation? This is why, folks. Uh, Hear me out. I'll bring this around. I couldn't participate in extracurriculars at Yale because of the school's competitive environment. It's not just a Yale problem. This is from Serena Puang. Okay. I dreamed, I dreamed I dreamed of attending a prestigious college since the first grade. So in the fall of my senior year of high school, I packaged and repackaged myself for 14 colleges in 150-word answers. You wrote 150-word, about a 4-paragraph page, and you were repackaging yourself. Life must have been rough. What did I want to study? English, probably. What motivates me to learn? Fear and anxiety, if we're being honest. But we're not. So let's say it's the interconnected nature of the universe. What would I contribute to my first year dorm if admitted? Crisp oxygen! I have a lot of houseplants. These were days I wanted. There were days I wanted to quit at my public high school in Arkansas. No one else seemed to be applying to as many schools, but I kept reminding myself that it would be worth it. Plus, come spring, I had been done with personal essays and had never had to do them again. Following March, I got into college, matriculated at Yale, bought dorm room decor. All right, learned the hard way that Yale's dorms didn't have air conditioning. Huh. All right. After the initial excitement of moving in and meeting my suite mates, I was hit with another round of applications. This time for classes and extracurricular activities. I I quickly learned that the competitive nature of college application process bred even more competition among the Ivy League students once they got into campus. Like my fellow first year students, I attended back to back information sessions for clubs, the Yale Dramatic Association, debate, Sambrosia, it's a Latin dance team, and more. All right. It wasn't just extracurricular activities. Every semester, I wrote essays, submitting writing samples, emailed professors to get into classes I needed to graduate. It's common for seminars to receive over 100 applicants for 12 spots. I applied 3 times before being admitted to a popular essay writing class. This wasn't how I pictured my first year. College was supposed to be my time to make mistakes, experiment, all right, and try out things. After prioritizing things I excelled at over having fun for most of my high school, I planned to go back to the activities that I had been given up, all right, along the way. I wanted to audition for a play or take up aerial gymnastics. Really? Okay. This woman, and I assume it's a woman, I could be wrong, Serena Puong. Hey, Serena, you expected to get into aerial gymnastics at Yale. You were going to get into an athletic program at Yale, and you expected it not to be competitive? You expected athletic competition not to be competitive. All right. Really. Now, my first problem is, why would you go to Yale for an English degree? Why would you go to Yale to try to learn English? To get a degree in English? And yes, it doesn't surprise me that for your selected degree program, you had problems getting your classes because Yale is known as a law school. Law. No bad. No bad. What does that make a difference? It means damn near everybody needed to take that course for their degrees as well. Dumbass. So yeah, everyone was trying to get into those programs because it was necessary for their damn degrees. But don't get me wrong, there are problems in colleges. But to me, this sounds like you expected life to be freaking bed of roses. Okay? And it's not ever that way. Then this idiot sits up there and makes this thing. It's not just a Yale that breeds hyper-competitive environment. The university actually felt a lot less overtly competitive than high school because people weren't all trying to achieve the same narrow set of goals. But the atmosphere created a stigma around failure that caused some people, including me, to hold themselves back from trying new things. In other words, you were afraid of failing. This is an entitlement issue, lady. Don't get me wrong. We need to get rid of our frickin' the high priority of these schools, or high position, right? The reputation of Yale, the reputation of Harvard, are undeserved, considerably undeserved. All right, El Salvador's Bukele, all right, has everyone's attention as he seeks re-election in spite of the Constitution. Love him or hate him, all eyes are on Nayib Bukele. All right, to many, El Salvador's president is a national hero who took the country's violent gangs, all right, who took on the violent gangs with an unrelenting hand. To others, the populist is a 21st century autocrat 21st century autocrat who has committed mass human rights abuses and has altered the rules of the game to concentrate power into his own hands. Bukele has captured the world's attention in a way few other Latin American leaders have in recent times. The self described world's coolest dictator is likely to easily skate into a second presidential term in the election Sunday after sidestepping El Salvador's constitutional prohibiting re-election in 6 different places. Buleki, all right, has the support of 7 to 9 of every 10 voters, according to recent polling. Alex Cisneros is among those who plan to vote for Bukele. All right, I know I'm butchering this name. I do apologize. Many saying that they have few options after years of corruption and violence under El Salvador's traditional parties. He's done many things and many bad things, Cisneros 32 said. People criticize him, but at least he's changed something. Growing up in one of the most dangerous areas of San Salvador, Cisneros, all right, fled to the United States when he was 20 after his cousin was slain by the Mara Salvatrucha gang. All right. Now back home, he said he was disturbed when police jailed an elderly neighbor for protecting her son, a likely gang member, but he adds he can walk the streets freely at night for the first time in his life. Bukele, almost a certain victory, will further cement his grip on power as his tough tactics ripple out from this small Central American nation to other places with their own security crises like Ecuador, Honduras, and the Dominican Republic that worries rights advocates across the region. Okay, here's my problem with this. Okay, and my problem is with these supposed rights activists. Oh, we're worried about people's rights. We're worried about their human rights. Yet you do nothing, absolutely nothing, to stop these criminals. In fact, you bitch and whine how the criminals are treated. You're not giving them a cookie. You're making them feel bad because they're criminals and they committed rape and murder. You need to treat them with human respect. And you just treated them right. They wouldn't act like criminals. They wouldn't act like. Show me one place where these human rights activists have taken over where things have gotten better. Now, Is it worrisome that this guy is ignoring the Constitution? Yeah, it is. This guy needs to learn what it takes to create a law-abiding society outside of an aristocratic mentality. And there's only one way to do it. You come in, you take over, you kick everybody's asses, and then you go, you know what? I'm going to walk away. Their constitution obviously needs to be rewritten, okay? But at that point, he should sit up there and go, okay, I've done this. I'm walking away. It's the only way to salvage the situation and salvage the mentality of the people to be law abiding. Because if you come back and say that the Constitution is nothing more than a piece of paper, then what's the difference? If you don't want people to be corrupt, if you want them to obey the laws, if you want the law to be something more than just a piece of paper, or the head man in charge will put a bullet into my head, then what you have to do is you got to be willing to abide by the law. Should they be rewriting the Constitution of Ecuador? Yeah, or excuse me, El Salvador to go through this process? It has to be done. Good luck to you. Under the state of emergency in his government, he has locked up 76,000 people, more than 1% of the population, in prisons where rights groups have documented cases of torture and deaths of more than 150 inmates. I think more inmates in the United States die every year. 76,000 people. The government has also been accused of systematic human rights abuses. Don't you love that word? Human rights abuses. Another phrase. You want to tell me what the human rights abuse is? It's so cold and snowy in Alaska that fuel oil is thickening and roofs are collapsing. Really? This is a story by the AP, folks. Much of Alaska has plunged into a deep freeze in winter, with temperatures well below zero. Not a surprise. Anchorage has seen some of the coldest temperatures in years. Oh, heck no. All right. The mayor opened warming facilities for people who are homeless or don't have reliable heating. Once again, not a surprise. To the south, in the capital, Juneau, snow blanketed streets and rooftops are part of a 2-day storm that helped set a new January snowfall record of 6.4 feet for the city, which is nestled into a relatively temperate rainforest. That after back-to-back storms walloped Juneau earlier in the month. Anchorage surpassed 100 inches of snow this week, the earliest date in the state's largest city that has ever hit that mark. Okay, so it had winter weather. Welcome to winter. Meanwhile, in France, they're protesting farmers and France is protesting farmers encircle Paris with tractor barricades, vowing a siege over grievances. Yosni, Yosni. I can't try to butcher the name, but Yosni, France. Protesting farmers encircled Paris with traffic snarling barricades Monday, using hundreds of lumbering tractors and mounds of hay bales to block highways leading to France's capital to pressure the government over the future of their industry, which has been shaken by repercussions of the Ukrainian war. The blockading of major thoroughfares around Paris, host of the Summer Olympics in 6 months, and protests elsewhere in France promised another difficult week for new Prime Minister Gabriel Attal. All right, less than a month into the job, protesters said Attal's attempts last week at pro-agriculture measures fell short of their demands that producing food should be more lucrative, easier, and fairer. Fairer. Farmers responded with the deployment Monday of convoys of tractors, trailers, and even rumbling harvesters in what they describe as a siege of Paris to gain more concessions. Some protesters came with reserves of food and water in tents to stay at the barricades if the government doesn't cede ground. We've come to defend French agriculture, said Christophe Rossingol, a 52-year-old farmer of organic orchards and other crops. Tractors at the barricades east of Paris were parked so they formed what looked like an ear of wheat when they were seen from the air. We go from crisis to crisis, Rosengal said. Some vehicles carried placards declaring no food without farmers and the end of us would mean famine for you. It it's it's the other programs, folks. It's the other programs. I'm telling you now. Folks, I'm telling you, it's the programs that the other governmental programs, specifically the environmental ones, that are causing this kind of havoc. It has nothing to do with all the rest of this. The problem that they're having is the fact that the farming industry throughout Europe has been subsidized for a long period of time. Even in the United States, farmers receive subsidies from the federal government from time to time. All right, that's not nearly to the degree that you're seeing it in other Western European countries, of course, but it's still significant. And as a result, to try and make things better, what have they done? Oh, we're going to put in this process to make sure people buy food at higher prices and can afford the food that we're trying to have these guys produce. They're not letting the farmers farm. Oh, you can't treat the cow this way. Missy the cow, you can't use the cattle prod to get her to freaking get into the squeeze chute. All right, where we could protect her life and give her shots and everything to make sure that the cow is healthy. See that that don't you understand, dumbass? That's treating you're abusing the animal because you're putting him in a electric shock and he had to move. Most people don't even know this. A physicist was asked, "How do we know climate change is caused by humans?" She went to ChatGPT for the answer. In a recent YouTube video, Sabine Horsenfelder, all right, delved into the web of evidence that substantiates the claim that human activities are driving climate change. Here's what she said. The video kicked off with Hossenfelder sharing her initial encounter with the question on Twitter, prompting her to explore answers available through online search engines. To her surprise, the immediate results failed to provide a good answer. And that's because even the answers you claim, lady, later on in this thing, you claim are evidence are good answers. They're not good answers. Okay? And this becomes the problem. Because here it goes. Accepting that both Google and ChatGPT explain the observable impacts of climate change, such as rising temperatures, sea levels, extreme weather events, Hossenfelder shifted her focus to explain the specific evidence to linking these changes to human activities. What human activities? She methodically broke down 5 key pieces, all right, offering viewers a guided tour. The continuous rise in carbon dioxide levels. The first piece of evidence revolved around the properties of carbon dioxide molecules. Hossenfelder explained that the laboratory measurement of the type of light absorbed and emitted by carbon dioxide, established its role in trapping infrared radiation, essential for keeping the planet warm. Moving to the second phase, she highlighted the continuous rise in carbon dioxide levels, all right, in the Earth's atmosphere since the inception of measurements. In other words, you have never seen a decrease since we've been able to do this. You've never been able to see a decrease in the levels of carbon dioxide ever on the planet. You had a baseline and it's all gone up from there. How does that prove, dimwit, that it's man-made global climate change? The third piece of evidence focused on the impact of carbon dioxide in the oceans. She said absorption of carbon dioxide in the oceans leads to a decrease in pH and makes it more acidic. Oh, so what's the acidity level been like in the ocean? The fifth and final, or the fourth piece is the isotopic analysis, specifically examining carbon isotopes. Hossenfelder explained that the differences in carbon isotopes, such as carbon 12, carbon 13, and carbon 14, by studying the ratio of these isotopes, scientists can discern the origin of additional carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The decline of carbon 13 to carbon 14 ratios pointed to fossil fuels as the primary source, ruling out alternative explanations. Okay? Now, that, believe it or not, is at least something. Okay? But here's the problem. How does the decline of carbon 13 to carbon 14 ratios, or carbon 12 ratios rather, indicate anything? All right, now I'm putting this out because Miss Physicist here knows no one's going to challenge her. Okay. Just a second, folks. I got to handle something real quick here. Hang on, just a moment. Hang on a second, folks. I'm trying to fix something. Sorry about that, folks. Having issues with my daughter's car. Believe it or not. All right, now back to this physics understanding here. Carbon 14 is created, all right, and carbon 13 are created via several different methodologies. Okay, the radioactive carbon. Okay, so ratios changing over time can point to changes in what's taking place to create them. All right, the idea that the only ratios to this, okay, are due to fossil fuels. okay, all right, is not enough. All right, the, the fact that you're using carbon, even if you're using carbon 14 or other fuels such as you know uh, petroleum and several other things, the ratios changing, all right, as you examine them, have to have been looked at over a longer period of time than what we have currently available, all right, in order to establish climate change. I'm not denying the possibility of this at all, right? I'm trying to point out that what they're saying, all right, for an explanation is proof, isn't proof. So we're using more fossil fuels, okay? So the ratio you're seeing in the atmosphere, all right, is changing, all right. And one of the explanations could be there's more carbon in the atmosphere. By what degree? By how much? You're saying it's due to carbon being emitted in the atmosphere, but you're ignoring the fact that you have no idea how much was being emitted by natural sources 300 years ago. So these ratios that you're claiming have to be done by petroleum, really? Why? And with all due respect to this nitwit, all right, when have we been able to sit up there and explore the changes in the atmosphere? Only recently. Only recently have we been able to get up into the higher atmosphere, take actual samples to sit up there and determine ratios of carbon 13 to carbon 12. You're not talking about the ability that man has had for a long period of time to study this. You see the problem here. The fifth piece, and final piece, introduced the strategic or stratospheric cooling. She clarified that while carbon dioxide warms the Earth's surface, it has a cooling effect in the stratosphere. This cooling, observed through satellite data, aligns with predictions made decades ago, all right, provides another layer of evidence reinforcing the connection between human induced carbon dioxide emissions and climate change. No, it doesn't. You see, this woman is, and here's the problem with this. Okay, what's you say that the carbon dioxide has changed, the ratios have changed. Okay, and yes, the ratios for carbon dioxide have changed. No one's denying that. You can see that as the evidence. The question isn't that. The question is number one, is it man-made? But number two, it still comes down to the fact that how do you know that CO2 is causing climate change? You see, this is the stupidity of this entire thing. Oh, we see more carbon dioxide. So what? How do you know that the rate of change that you're seeing has anything to do with a similar rate, or a rate, not a similar rate, but a change in the carbon dioxide? And I'm not saying one of these people is saying that climate change is man-made climate change, all right, is made up. That's never been the issue. I personally think we should be working towards fewer and fewer things. I think we should be dealing with electric cars and things like that. And we could have been if the same people who are decrying this as global climate change, right, had gotten out of the way and let us sit up there and build nuclear power plants, and we'd be running off of nuclear power and electrical power for freaking years. We could have gotten rid of a lot of problems. But see, Miss Physicist here, who claims that she knows how do we know climate change is real, that's nonsense. She went to Chat GBT and can't find any answers, so she kind of made up some stuff on her own and said, see, this proves this. No, it doesn't prove anything. You see, correlation doesn't prove causation. And if she's a physicist, she should know that. You see, The only way you can be sure of what's going on is to measure the reflected input and output, all right, of energy that we receive from the sun and that gets reflected back into space. Because that's absolutely necessary to assume that the quote unquote global warming is actually taking place. These same people with the same data that they talk about, see these models prove it. These models also prove that there wouldn't be any freaking ice in the Arctic by now. ask the great hero, Al Gore. Like I said, I'm not saying that global climate change isn't happening due to man-made changes. Okay, you'll love this next story. New wave reactor technology could kickstart nuclear renaissance in the U.S. and the U.S. is banking on it. Off the Siberian coast, not far from Alaska, a Russian ship that has been docked in port for 4 years. The I'm not even trying. Ada Delmek, all right, Lamonosov, all right, the world's first floating nuclear power plant, sends energy to around 200,000 people on land using a next wave nuclear technology, the small modular reactors. This technology is also used below sea level. Dozens of U.S. submarines lurking in the depths of the world's oceans are propelled by SMRs. As the compact reactors are known, SMRs are relatively smaller and less costly to build than traditional large scale reactors and are fast becoming the next great hope for a nuclear renaissance as the world scrambles to cut fossil fuels. The United States, Russia, and China are battling for dominance, all right, to build and sell them. The Biden administration and American companies are plowing billions of dollars into SMRs in a bid for business and global influence. China is leading in the nuclear technology and construction, and Russia is making almost all the world's SMR fuel. The U.S. is playing catch up on both. And then it goes around. There's no mystery why the U.S. Behind why the U.S. wants in on the market has already lost the wind and solar race to China. Really, folks. Really. We lost the wind and solar race to China. Really? So China's being powered by wind and solar? No. Well, solar cells are being produced in China and not producing us. Slave labor will let you do that. Nonsensical business relations in the United States and manufacturing that kills manufacturing in the country will do that. where, where Russia makes the most of the SMR fuel. I wonder why. Wouldn't have anything to do with the regulations of the United States that caused that, would it? That wouldn't have anything to do with it. Okay. Federal judge dismisses Disney lawsuit against Governor Ron DeSantis. A federal judge in Florida had dismissed a lawsuit filed by Disney against Governor Ron DeSantis and other state officials over the state's legislature's decision to alter the governing structure of the Reedy Creek Improvement District. Disney had argued in a lawsuit filed last April that the change to the district, for which the company was the main landowner, all right, was made in retaliation for criticism of the Parental Rights and Education Act, known by opponents as Don't Say Gay Bill. The Florida legislature voted to dissolve the former governing board of the district and create a DeSantis-appointed Central Florida Tourism Oversight District in its place. The board voided a contract made before the CFTOD was in place, according to the lawsuit. And you just got shot down. DeSantis has been at odds with Disney since it publicly criticized the DeSantis-backed controversial Florida law that restricts content, all right, concerning sexual orientation and gender identity in grades kindergarten through the third grade. How dare they? And of course, a federal judge now has ruled, all right, against Mickey. Mickey took it in the shirt. Mickey took it in the shorts. Here's another one. What is code switching? Why black Americans say they can't be themselves at work. As one of the few black women, Jessica Guillaume, right, in corporate offices where she worked, Regina Lawless took pains to blend in. She donned conservative blazers and low-wedged heels and tucked her hair in a wig instead of wearing natural hairstyles or braids. Echoing the speech patterns of her white colleagues, she avoided African American vernacular English, spoke in a quieter voice, buttoned down her mannerisms. Even casual moments around the water cooler, she constantly monitored how she carried herself and chatted about the latest episode of Game of Thrones, not Insecure. All right. I was coming in as a young black woman and I didn't want them to think of me as unprofessional or ghetto or pick your stereotype of black women, she said. I was on my way not to have people question my competence or my professionalism. Welcome to the workforce. Everyone does this. For many black and brown workers, this is as routine or familiar as breathing. No shit. Watching how you say things, watching what you talk about, watching what you reference. You don't think that every single person does that in a workplace? Honey, please. This is the problem with it. Well, I want to talk like I'm back on the block. I want to talk like like I'm back on the farm. Really? I'm not going to watch how I say things. I'm not going to watch how I do things. I joke with people that I wanted to retire at 40. Lawless, who runs her own company today, all right? I felt like an 80-year-old because of all the additive cognitive load that I had to carry, all right, to just do my day job. Black employees are nearly 3 times more likely to code switch than white employees, according to a survey of more than 2,000 full and part-time employees conducted for the Indeed in for Indeed by the Harris poll. What's more is nearly half the black employees see code switching as a necessity at work. No shit. Diversity experts explain the habit is becoming more common as conservative backlash against diversity, equity, and inclusion causes some companies to cut back on initiatives. Well, maybe it's because people are saying, you know what? If you're going to be a racist, you can't be the right kind of racist. You just can't be racist. If you think people don't watch themselves at work, all right, regardless of who they are, you're an idiot. You are an absolute buffoon if you believe that. Just pointing this out. Potentially hazardous asteroid makes closest pass to Earth in more than a century. I would really like it if this was actually an iron meteorite. An illustration shows the Psyche asteroid, which measures 173 miles across, all right, and which is the target of NASA's probe landing in 2029. NASA identified about 25,000 potentially hazardous asteroids, although most are not as large as 2008 OS7, which passed by the Earth Friday. I missed. A football field sized asteroid whizzed by the Earth Friday, making it its closest pass in more than a century. The Virtual Telescope Project captured a live stream of the historic astronomical event about 1 p.m. Eastern Time Friday, while the asteroid passed by the Earth from 1.7 million miles away, about 7 times the distance from Earth to the Moon. All right, it was still a close shave from cosmic perspective. No, we've had asteroids that have actually come closer to the Earth than the Moon is. That's a close shave. Okay, 7 times away from the Moon. That's like saying the Moon is constantly in a close shave with the Earth. Just putting it out there. U.S. Coast Guard searches for man sailing from California to Hawaii. Honolulu. The U.S. Coast Guard on Friday asked mariners for help in finding a 60-year-old man sailing from California to Hawaii. Noel Rubio left Long Beach on December 28th in his 32 9.7 meter sailboat Malulani, the Coast Guard said in a news release. He planned to arrive in Kanohoi. All right, I'm assuming that's how you say it. Kanohoi. Kanohoi. Right, on the island of Oahu 3 weeks later. He made contact via cell phone on 28th south of the Catalina Island in California. The agency has been unable to find him despite searching the harbors in California, Hawaii, and Mexico and sending urgent marine information broadcasts. Rubio's only form of communication on board the Malulani is a VHF FM Marine Band radio. The Coast Guard is asking people to report information or sightings of the vessel or Rubio to rescue and coordination centers in Alameda, California, or Honolulu. The Coast Guard recommends that mariners crossing the ocean, all right, travel with multiple forms of communication, including radios and satellite and an electronic position radio beacon, so authorities can find those needing rescue. If you've seen this guy, Noel Rubio, let the Coast Guard know. New York City launches a $53 million program to hand out prepaid credit cards to migrant families. You see, China, if you had come across the border right, you wouldn't have had these problems. Mayor Eric Adams' administration will soon start handing out prepaid credit cards to migrant families being put up in the Big Apple hotels, the Post has learned. The $53 million pilot program run by the New Jersey company Mobility Capital Finance will provide asylum seekers arriving at the Roosevelt Hotel with the city cash to help them buy food, according to city records. It'll start with a group of 500 migrant families in short-term hotel stays and will replace the current food service offered there, according to City Hall. The cards can only be used at bodegas, grocery stores, supermarkets, and convenience stores. The migrants must sign an affidavit swearing that they will only spend the funds on food and baby supplies, or they will be kicked out of the program. That'll work. can't make this stuff up. You cannot make this stuff up. Passenger puts the ew in Uber. While taking an Uber home to his $650,000 townhouse, a Florida man, what a surprise, exposed his genitals and pleasured himself to completion, forcing the driver to clean up the mess left behind by his front seat passenger seat, police charge. According to court records, the driver picked up Jason Haggerty, 46, around 8:45 p.m. Saturday in Tampa and drove him to St. Petersburg, where Haggerty owns a residence with his husband. In- Meanwhile, en route, Haggerty displayed and exposed his penis and proceeded to masturbate. The duration of the ride until arriving at home, the driver told cops he speaks no English and was unable to tell the defendant to stop. Oh. The driver said that Haggerty ejaculated in the vehicle. In order to continue working, the driver had to personally clean the seminal fluid from his own vehicle, the detective reported. The arrest affidavit noted there was a third unknown person in the vehicle's back seat who spoke up for the victim at the conclusion of the ride. Haggerty, a licensed nurse practitioner, right, was arrested yesterday for exposure of sexual organs, a misdemeanor, and booked in the county jail. During a court hearing today, a judge ordered Haggerty released from custody on his own recognizance. The judge directed Haggerty to have no contact with the driver. Additionally, the judge ruled that the defendant shall not use Uber, Lyft, rideshare, or any assisted means of transportation while the case is pending. Oh my God, folks. Naked woman in convenience store rampage. A naked woman wielding a sharp edged vegetable peeler threatened a convenience store workers, destroyed a Red Bull display, and masturbated in front of the sheriff's deputies before being taken into custody last night on a variety of criminal charges, according to court records. Investigators allege that Celia Burnett, all right, 35, all right, caused a drunken disturbance Sunday evening at racetrack in St. Petersburg, Florida. I'm sensing the theme here. Upon arriving at the Upon arriving San closed at the store, Barrett began yelling about being trespassed from the business the prior day. All right. On Saturday, police warned Barrett that she would be subject to arrest if she returned to the racetrack. As detailed in a series of criminal complaints, after Barrett, peeler in hand, showed up at the store around 6:40 p.m., she threatened two workers, one who told police that Barrett said she would kill him. Barrett, seen above, proceeded to topple and break a display of Red Bull energy drinks, spill cigarettes from a carton she tore open. When officers arrived at the racetrack, Barrett was still inside and still naked. Prior to being taken into custody, Barrett began masturbating in front of the deputies. Barrett reportedly admitted to being intoxicated and said she had consumed approximately 6 shots of liquor. You mean 6 pints of liquor? All right. Charged with aggravated assault, disorderly intoxication, trespass, criminal mischief, and exposure of sexual organs. Barrett was held in county jail. Her extensive rap sheets include convictions on battery, prostitution, criminal mischief, and narcotics possession. Yeah. The tigers who came for tea. All right. World's biggest cats go on a rampage in Russia, killing humans and eating dogs after Putin saved the species from extinction. Tigers have gone on a rampage in Russia, killing people and eating dogs after Vladimir Putin saved the species from extinction. The giant Amur tigers, considered the world's largest cats, are thought to be behind a series of attacks over the last year, which saw two people get killed by the beast and several more injured. In December, Victor S. was viciously mauled and killed in the Khabarovsk region in eastern Russia while he was looking for a place to where his dog was killed, likely by the same animal. Dude, your dog got killed in an area and you went to go play tag with it, saying? Local fisherman Sergei Kalundazuguga, Yuka, 19, was seriously injured last year after a wild tiger jumped through his window and attacked him. He survived after the big cat was shot to death by his cousin. This comes after Putin supported the rehabilitation of Amur tigers in its natural habitat in the east of the country. They're pretty animals, folks. An Amur tiger captured by a closed CCTV was seen carrying away a guard dog and it killed. Now, the numbers of the endangered species have rapidly risen to over 750 in the wild, and they're proving to be a threat to villagers. This kind of isn't a surprise. Just this last weekend, a tiger killed a guard dog in the city of Kutuzovoka, all right, south of the Karabask city. All right, then another was eaten, likely by the same big cat, in the Shrednikhorski. All right, some 25 miles away. In neighboring Primorsky region, a house guard dog was savaged in Kuluki, north of Vladivostok. Earlier this month, a heavyweight 60-kilogram guard dog was killed in Anushke district of the Primorsky region, likely by a tiger of the Amur species, where the males can weigh as much as 109 kilograms. That's about 500 pounds, folks. That's about 500 pounds. One theory for the killings is that the natural habitat of the tigers has been destroyed by man, meaning the beasts cannot find their usual prey. Has it ever occurred to you that maybe their usual prey is man? Just put it out there. Final story of the day. Raccoons knock out power for thousands in downtown Toronto. A power outage affecting thousands of customers in downtown Toronto was caused by an unlucky raccoon that wandered into the wrong place, utility officials say. Hydro One said on social media that about 7,000 downtown customers lost power for more than 2 hours Thursday night, and crews determined that a raccoon had made contact with our equipment at a downtown Toronto station. Tizina Pagela Rosa, spokesman for Hydro One. I'm not trying to butcher your name, lady. All right, told Global News that the crews were able to confirm that a raccoon was behind the issue at the Church Wellesley area transmission station because the animal was unfortunately there on site and had perished when they had arrived. They are looking into ways to prevent future incidents. Yes. To sacrifice yourself to take down the power grid. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is all I've got for the day. Thanks for coming out. I appreciate you listening to my rants and raisin. Hope you all have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.